It is never too early for Halloween, so let's get back into 13 Weeks of Halloween. Bookhos, I'm so excited to be back from vacation. This project was brought to you by footage that was filmed before my vacation and then immediately after, and trying to get this out in time for continuing my 13 Weeks of Halloween series. If you've never joined me before, welcome to Bookhoarding by Bianca. I'm Bianca. I like to talk about fashion, costume, DIY crafty thing, and like a teaspoon of pop culture every once in a while. Jane Austen. So today I'm going to go over a little quick tutorial on one way to make my Batwing bow. I have 2 sizes for this pattern. If you are interested in buying the pattern for this, I would greatly appreciate it. All of the money from the pattern sales are going to go toward my school supplies, which have become very expensive. If you have not been following, I got a scholarship to go to fashion school, very fancy fashion school, for costume design to get a master's in it, but it doesn't pay for my supplies. And guess what? Supplies are very important for graduate work. Who would have thought? So if you're interested in buying the pattern, I will have a link for it in my description. It will be my Ko-fi, and all of that money will go toward helping me be able to afford school. Other free ways to help me, since you are here listening to me talk about how like it would be helpful to have money for school supplies, to like, share, comment on any of my videos. That is always useful to me and getting word out there on the stuff that I do. The stuff that I do here is trying to teach DIY stuff and share a bunch of things I learned along the way in fashion school. That is like my big goal. It is sharing things that you don't have to actually go to the trouble of going to fashion school like I did. So I'm trying to share the most useful critical stuff for sewing and not get into the nitty-gritty of like other things. Okay, so let's just dive into this project because I've talked enough about other things. Here are the materials that you need to make this. You need fabric. I'd say you probably could even just like a fat quarter. You want to decide if you want to do a contrast fabric on the back. There are 2 different ways to make this. So there's one where you use just 2 pieces of fabric. You sew around them and then you put them right side out. So you definitely want to interface one of those pieces. The other way of doing this too is you interface one piece and then you sew it like a sandwich down, and then you put bias tape around the outside. So have bias tape if you want to do the bias tape. Make sure you have interfacing. For both of these options, I did use a little metal clasp, a little hair clasp. But you can also use a pin back. I think actually for one of them I did use a pin back because I wanted to pin it onto a hat. So there are different hardware options that I will link to in my description if you don't have them. But if you don't have a fancy hardware, you can just use a safety pin. Can be real. You can just use a safety pin or make like a little loop and put like a bobby pin through there. I mean, it's free, easy options at home if you don't have the exact hardware. All right, so I've gone over materials. I've asked you to please share this and please buy my pattern so I can pay for school supplies because, oh my god, it's expensive. I think we're ready to get into the actual DIY. Let's go. All right, so I cut this on the fold so that the fold here is the center of the Batwing, and you can see that I'm using some scraps. This is actually a pretty good scrap project if you have big enough scraps for this. And I didn't really try to center this at all. I just went with it. And then I used a interfacing, and I used some black fabric I had for the other side. You can see here, and then there's the pattern. So I have all my pieces cut up, and all of these are cut on folds, and they're ready to go. So first, we're just going to add interfacing. Always want to make sure that your iron is not touching the glue side, and just do this press, picking straight up and straight down onto your piece with the glue facing the fabric, and then cover your ironing board as well, just so you don't get glue on your iron or your ironing board. That's how you do interfacing. So I've interfaced that, and then I've started cutting off the extra interfacing. I just personally like putting a little bit extra and then putting the piece on and cutting it out versus trying to cut precisely to the interfacing. Then I pinned all around my piece to get it ready to be sewn. So this method I am just going to be doing just putting bias tape around the outside. You can see I use about like a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, a healthy 1/4 of an inch seam allowance around the edges, and then I added bias tape. And so this is me, I'm here ironing now. I've sewn it to one side, now I'm ironing it and need to fold it over, which is a very taxing thing. But if you want the kind of little edges to look bold, it's a way to do it. So I just pinned it in place. I did a lot of this ironing board to help kind of steam it into place. And you can see here I'm sewing. I don't mind using the green thread. I like it. I don't know why some people are weird about contrast threads. I recently realized some people just like match it all, and I'm like, no, contrast threads are cool. Stop it. So yeah, I'm just sewing along now the back, and then I ironed it again. You can see, ta-da! Now, I bring back my pattern, and I marked here where I wanted to bring this in. So the little marks are like you're pulling them together. You're pulling the mark to the mark. So you can see here how I pinned those two marks, and then that bottom one I've already pinned in place. So you're just pulling like where the two pins would be together. And you don't have to do this. This is just something I liked adding the kind of depth. So you can see here, here's both sides pinned into place. That's how pleats are kind of shown in patterns. And yeah, I liked the depth that that gave. And I then added a little bow thing, a little, not bow thing, a little, it's looking like a bow, right? I add a little strip here to put in the clip, the hair clip. Yes, that's the word. You could obviously hot glue this if you want to, but I wasn't final on my placement of some of this, so I just went with it. You can see here, I am trying to see if I like it, give myself a little look-see. So you can leave it like that, or you can go in and sew it together and make it a little bit more, I don't know, cheerful, or I look like it's flying. So here is where I sewed it. You can see I pinned it in the middle there, and I have like a keyhole, and then you just sew about 1 inch or half an inch there, and it's a very perky little bow. Yeah, look at it, so cute. Other things that you can do with this include, smaller. I have a smaller pattern that I've shared, and then I also put this on a hat. And for these smaller bows, all I did was I sewed pretty much the same, but it was right sides touching, left a little bit of a gap, and then put it right side out and used a little turn tool to get those corners, and then ironed it. I still used interfacing on one side, but that's really how I got that shape. Pretty much the same, minus one step of bias tape, to be honest. Through the magic of editing, I am still here and yet talking to you from further in the video. It's amazing. So I really hope that you enjoyed this little tiny DIY. I liked having these little cute Batwing bows available for like matching my cute dresses, to be honest, on my little vacation I took before school starting. Yeah, I hope that you check out the pattern, and if not, I still want to see the Batwing bows you make. Even if you make your own pattern, I want to see the Batwing bows out in this world that you are making, because I think it is adorable, and I especially love using scraps to match my dresses with. So this is an inadvertent scrap project, but there you go. It's the best of all worlds, right, Scrap Monster?
Yes, I am so pleased to see scraps once again being recognized for their brilliant nature, their ever useful abilities. Scraps are like all the Avengers in one, forever useful. Don't forget your scrap friends. They miss you. They just want to be used. Please.
I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to check out all the links in my description on how to support, follow my stuff, and, hang out a little bit. Yes, I'm on Ko-fi. You can leave me tips there, and on Patreon, where you can get early access to things like patterns, because one of my patrons already got access to the pattern before I put it online, and they don't have to pay for it, because it's part of their monthly subscription, that when I make patterns, they get the pattern. Just saying, that exists. Now, I must go and finish mysterious costuming in the background. Thank you so much for joining me, and don't forget to make it so. If you're just joining me for the first time, my name is Bianca, and this is Bookhoarding by Bianca, and I'm Bianca.